overview to everybody, and then we'll get started with a couple questions, and then we'll take Q&A. So if you guys want to start lining up.
Hi guys, thanks for coming out. It's good to see you.
Thanks for waking up and being here.
Hi, thank you so much for coming to this big Motel 6.
Thank you all for coming, and how long has it been? 27 years of seeing you guys back and forth, and my comrades on stage. Good to see you again.
You know, now that the series is over, I can speak in my real voice. And I want to say to all of you, muchas gracias. And I want to say to all of you, may the force be with you.
Okay, it's gonna be one of those Voyager panels. As usual, what else is new, right? So, you guys all have long careers and so many credits to your names, and you started young. You started doing this work, early on as a passion. And so I'm wondering, I just want to hear, what is it that drives you, and what do you find the most satisfaction out of working in this business? In any order.
One of the main things that drives me is because I'm a mom, and I'm the mom of a now adult young man and a young girl. I think it's important that they see role models and strong women, especially for my daughter. So it's important to me that I try to portray strong women. That's always kind of driven me.
That's really cool and evident. Very cool.
Yeah, that's similar to my response also.
Strong women?
Strong woman, yes. And do you notice this? There's two feet.
There are.
Imprints of.
There are two imprints.
Am I supposed to stand there? I don't know. Okay. Well, for me, I went to from fifth grade to senior year in high school. I was in Memphis, Tennessee. And Jeri was not far away from me. She was in Paducah, Kentucky, so kind of close.
Really?
There's not a Paducah person here. Oh, we've driven through Paducah. Oh, okay. So, essentially, spending fifth grade to senior year in high school in Memphis, Tennessee, I faced a lot of racism, and it was very difficult for me, day in and day out. So when I did get to Hollywood and I did start acting, and I threw away that dream of being a doctor, as every other Asian person in the world is trying to do, and I went ahead and went into acting. Thank you for the support. You are the morale officer on Voyager, so I love that. Okay, so I really wanted to portray a non-stereotypical character so that a young Asian man walking down the streets of Memphis, Tennessee, or anywhere in the South would not be picked on for his ethnicity. So getting onto Voyager was amazing. And I remember when I first was cast on the show, they asked me, do you have any concerns that you want us to keep in mind? And I said, yes. I said, please don't have Vincent Kim going into the mess hall and going up to a replicator and ordering a bowl of noodles or fried rice. Let's just not do the stereotypical stuff. Let's keep him Starfleet first, Asian second. And they actually thought about this because season 1, there's an episode where Kim has to go down on the planet and he has to wear a non-Starfleet uniform. It's just this, just casual wear. And they had this one top that was a little bit questionable because it folded over like an Asian garment. So I went down to the wardrobe department and they go, and here it is. And I'm looking at it and I said, you know what, it looks okay. It's not that, it's not very Asian looking. And they said, by the way, this garment was already worn by someone else in the Star Trek universe, so it's a repurposed garment. I said, oh, who? They said, Patrick Stewart. I'll wear this as a turban. I'll put it on as a diaper. Patrick Stewart wore this? Sure. So, I'll do whatever you want, so thank you.
Thank you, Chase, for the question. As a straight white Christian male, I've always felt less than in this society. And it's been very hard for me. No, this is a tough hotel. I was telling these guys, it's very hard. When I checked in, they didn't give me a key, they gave me a road map. No, seriously. They said, here's an ice bucket and a blanket, and I was told, good luck. This morning I called room service. You know who answered? Satan. Very strange. I have a room with an adjoining towel. Can you believe that? No, the reason I went into, I've always wanted to be an actor ever since I was a little kid, because I figured I was born like all actors with this bizarre urge to behave privately in public. That's what I think it is. I think the real ones go into this business not for the money or anything else, but because they have this incredible, call it a compulsion to do something interesting or mysterious or sexy or dangerous while an audience watches them. Because it's part of the story that they want to be involved in. And they just feel that they're capable of pretending really well, and they love to show people what they look like. And I think that that's what actors have, and that's why we do what we do. Thank you guys.
I started out started out in acting in high school, and the thrill of performing in front of an audience on stage was intoxicating. And from that point forward, I decided I was going to pursue it as a career, study it for a few years, and then go out and pursue it. And to me, it's a creative challenge, is what it is, and I enjoyed that creative challenge. And it was clear by my math scores in high school I was not going to be a physicist, so I figured this road was probably better. So I pursued it for a long time, and I was very fortunate to have had the breaks that I've had. But to me, it's mostly just it's the creative challenge of taking on a role and bringing that role to life from the page, and that to me is can be very exciting. Particularly, I think my colleagues agree, I think live theater is probably a little bit more exciting than working in a television and film. Just because of the nature of the performances and a live audience that can give you such visceral feedback. It's wonderful. So that's it. For me, it's majorly the creative challenge.
I was in fourth grade, and we were doing a Christmas pageant at my elementary school, and I was chosen to play Joseph in the Christmas story, and this girl that I had a crush on was chosen to play the Virgin Mary. And we were puppets, so there was a table, and we were puppets like this, and there was a narrator saying stuff like, and Joseph and Mary were looking for the manger, you know, and but we had to be under the table very close together. And this girl, and I had this huge crush on her, and so I forgot about the whole puppet thing, and I was just looking at her like this. And then she said, "Robert, you have to move," and I was like, "Oh." Well, there was a light change when the morning star, whatever, was shining, and in that light change, the audience went, "Whoa!" And that for me was like, that's my job. I'm going to do this for a long, long time. So yeah, it was the reaction from the audience, and also when you're doing film and TV, you're lucky. You can sometimes come along, get a pretty good script, you know, a challenging. But in the theater, you almost always get a good play. I mean, there are so many great plays and great roles in the theater, and so that's why I really gravitated towards the theater, because I like the challenge of Shakespeare and Ibsen and all those great classic playwrights. And Garrett, I remember you in Tennessee. Boy, we was waiting for you to come out, but we never got you. But it ain't too late, Jeri.
Okay, well.
I know Kung Fu.
That's beautiful, guys. Oh, only at a Voyager panel, right? We know this.
I was going to make it much shorter, but Garrett was like, blah, 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 blah.
Before question because I just can't not ask it. We're in a period of time in our country and across the world that is incredibly intense. And obviously, Gene Roddenberry wrote these stories as morality plays. Anything you would like to say about how these stories relate to the world when he wrote them and now, and where we're headed as a country and the world in relationship to these issues?
Well, that's it.
I had to ask.
That's a loaded one.
It's relevant, and you can make it quick or you can say nothing at all. It's up to you, but I would love to hear if you'd like to say anything.
Well, I'm just going to say, I think every world leader should be strapped down to a chair and forced to watch all Star Trek episodes.
There's a quote that I've seen, we'll pass it around on the internet and things like that, from Gene, saying that, you know, until we learn as a species, humanity, to embrace each other's differences and celebrate each other's differences and not fear each other's differences, we're doomed. We're never going to be able to make it as a species. And that's what his message was with the original series. That's what his message has been with all of these going forward, is to embrace the differences of, you know, a different species, for example, not just a different race of human or a different color of human or a different religion. And we have to learn to embrace each other and not be afraid of people who are different. We've got to learn to come together.
It's the fact that we all are so different, that we all have different beliefs and different ethnicities and different languages that makes humanity an exciting journey. If we were all the same, we'd die of boredom. We have to let everybody be who they are. We have to live and let live.
I think that, well, you know, Star Trek takes place in the century it does, and I think it gives everybody a sense of optimism that in the future we will be able to work out all of our differences and live much more harmoniously. And if you think about it, you know, over the centuries on this planet, there have been world conflicts, world wars, battles waged everywhere. And if you're thinking about it right now, we do not have that. We've reached a point since World War II that there haven't been world conflicts. So I think we're moving very slowly, but inexorably forward. I think that eventually our cultures and ideologies will be homogenous. We will all be more universal in our understandings and beliefs and things like that. And I believe that as soon as our priorities shift from ideology to families, children, human beings in general, that is when we're going to make the move, and that's when it'll happen. It is a long process. We didn't get here overnight, and our cultural evolution will take a while as well. But if Star Trek is any indication, I think that we have a chance, and I think that we'll reach that point. We'll start. It'll be very slow. It's not going to happen overnight. Nothing does. So eventually we'll get there.
But Tim, I want it to happen overnight. Are you sure? So, I echo everything that everybody said. But I think that one of the problems is that, and I put myself in the same boat with everybody else, but I think humanity sort of has to mature. There's no reason why we should be afraid of science. There's no reason why we should be afraid of atomic energy. It's because, or nuclear energy. It's because people are afraid that some maniac is going to, kill a bunch of people. Well, we need to get rid of the maniacs. We need to embrace what we have at our disposal, all of our resources, and grow. We're still sort of in our junior high stage, I think, and that doesn't mean all of us, but some of us are. And I think Star Trek fans represent really the best of. You guys look like humanity. You guys look like the rest of the world, and there's a nugget inside of each one of you that has a hope and a faith, I think. So I think that we have a lot to teach by our example, and that's what I try to do. And I'm trying to get out of junior high school myself, but you know, the trying is the goal. You know, it's very important to recognize it and then try to actually. Yeah.
I think that's the question that Jean would ask if you were here. So thank you all very much. Well said. Okay, so we've got a bunch of people on both sides. So let's take some questions. Let's start over there. And make your questions succinct, if you will.
My question is for Mr. Russ. I'd like to hear his thoughts about when he was on the set of Supergirl playing, at least according to me, some version of Tuvok.
Yes, with a mustache and goatee. I was booked on that gig, and I hadn't watched the show before that, so it was interesting to be able to go on and work with the lead actress, who was absolutely wonderful, as was the rest of the cast as well. And I thought it was kind of cool to be able to play a role of one of her fellow countrymen, or planet countrymen, where her homeworld is, and to be able to take the position that he did based on what happened in the history of their planet, which is the fact that it was destroyed and they can barely survive, and he has to be concerned with all of those things. So I thought it was pretty good. I'm pretty sure I showed a little bit more emotion in that than I normally do as Tuvok, so albeit he was not very nice. But it was good. It was fun.
You know, interestingly, I was originally set to do that role. And then at the very last minute, my agent never submitted me for it. So things didn't.
You were originally supposed to be 7 of 9, weren't you? Weren't you the...
They considered me one of two at the time, but yeah.
And I had to follow Ethan. I mean, he was their first choice. It was an adjustment on my part.
I was set to do Supergirl, but she turned me down. I said, absolutely not. You're short and old freak.
Okay, that image of you in a Supergirl costume and a 7 of 9 costume is seared in my memory.
Yes.
My brain, I can't get it out.
The rest of the day.
Sorry. No offense there, Johnny. Who is next? Get us out of this quick. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a question for Jeri. I just got finished binging Bosch, and you were a bad girl. Most actors say that their favorite roles are being villains. Was that your favorite role, or did you do something more villainous that I don't know about?
That's about as villainous as I got. I mean, I murdered a priest. That's pretty villainous. She was pretty rough. But it was a
What a way to go.
role, and a wonderful show, and a wonderful people. Like Titus Welliver, who I actually first met on Voyager.
Yeah, he's great.
That's a Voyager. Is just a phenomenal actor. I don't know how many of you have seen Bosch, but you should look it up if you haven't. It's on Amazon. But he's amazing in it.
Priest murderer?
Yeah, among other things, I was bad.
Hi, my question is for Jeri. Ms. Ryan, it was 1 year ago on this very stage that Marina Sirtis of the Next Generation cast was telling the audience about her negotiation problems with the studio for the movie Star Trek Nemesis back in 2002. She said at one point there was a low offer there, she didn't want it, and the studio said, well, if you don't accept this offer, we're going to fire you and replace you with Jeri Ryan. So obviously it didn't happen, but I was wondering if you ever became aware of that over time, and if you had any thoughts about it.
Well, what's interesting is that was never mentioned to me. They did offer me a role in Nemesis to replace a different character. It was not Marina. I'm not mentioning it. Because it was ridiculous. There was absolutely no reason to replace this character with 9, and it made no sense, so we obviously didn't do it. But it was not Marina, for the record. They may have used that as a negotiating tactic against her, which was not real nice, but that's not actually who they wanted to replace.
Can I just throw something in there about Nemesis? I just want to say, I think Voyager, the end game, the final episode. The first hour was amazing. The second hour tied everything up too quickly, right? We end up in orbit of Earth. They should have aired the first hour on your television screen at the end saying, "To be continued at a theater near you," and filmed a Voyager 2.5-hour movie, got rid of the Nemesis script. Because let's face it, if your TNG feature film script is not as good as certain TNG TV episodes, don't film it. Sorry, that's all.
Yes. Hello, my question's for any or all of you. Sorry, excuse me. So I'm sure your experience of Voyager was a learning experience for all of you, and I certainly learned a lot from watching it and the whole franchise, and even just beyond filming, you've had lots of exposure to different facets of the franchise. So just through your experience, I was curious, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned?
These deep questions for us, my goodness. Gentlemen?
That's to balance Robert's puppet and our fans. We gotta come on, right?
I would say if you're going to do prosthetics, hold out for more money.
I have to brag about him. I'm sorry to interrupt for 1 minute. This man should be sainted. Because I have never seen, I had the prosthetics when I was in the full Borg and they suck. But his prosthetics were out of control. He had full, dermal, scleral, whatever they're called, contacts, which are hideous. What was your, a strip of your chin and your bottom lip was all that was exposed on his face. This man was a saint. He never, in the 4 years I was there, never once complained. Never.
I used to say to Jeri all the time, because Jeri had a derma regenerating suit, that's why it was so tight. And I every time I'd see her, I go, let's see how it worked, take it off. Let's see.
I don't know if you guys remember this. We were filming an episode on location. We were at Bronson Caves up in Los Angeles, and it was a very hot day, and it was just, the sun was beating down, and all of us playing human characters were complaining. We were like, oh, bring us water, we need an umbrella for shade, this is horrible. And about after 30 minutes of this, and he had said nothing, right? Ethan Phillips is sitting there just watching us complain, and then finally he goes, enough! He goes, shut up! All of you, shut up! None of you is wearing a mattress on top of your head! I mean, it's like 6 inches of foam. It's like a mattress. And when he gets really animated and upset, his fake teeth fly out of his mouth. So it's just like, shut up! Shut up! Yeah, like a projectile.
I think one of the, in answer to your question also, I think the main thing for myself was, I realized after getting the role, intellectually, that the show had been a franchise for so many years, and there had been, the conventions and the fan base that had grown for it. So I knew that it was going to be very interesting playing this part, having this role in this franchise, because of the fan base and the loyalty of the fan base and how long it had gone on. But as it were, I tell people when I went to go read for it, that day I could have just as easily been reading for Baywatch and gotten booked on that. I can't tell you what it would have looked like on the beach with Skippy. Anyway, it could have easily been that. But this experience has been remarkable. Again, I mentioned earlier, it's 27 years. 27 years, and we're still communing with the fans that are still asking for signatures and autographs and photos, and people around the world, if I go anywhere, they do recognize me from the show, and that is pretty remarkable for a series and for having been on this franchise that's gone so long. It's really amazing.
Well, I come from a large family, and so I learned how to pick my times to assert myself, and that was good training for our show because we had 9 regulars and a crew that were great, funny guys and women, and directors that would come in and out. And you really had to learn how to modify whatever angst you might have been feeling on any certain day, any irritation you might have. So it just taught me how to be more patient, even though I wasn't always, and just how to negotiate with your fellow human beings and give with humility and accept with humility, and so that was a good experience.
Pretty cool. Thank you.
I did more than
Good morning, Robert, Tim, Ethan, Garrett, thank you for coming back and such. Jeri, I have a question for you. I'm on the autism spectrum and will be officially diagnosed 25 years this November. My question for you is, when you first joined the Voyager crew, your character 7 of 9, going from a Borg collective, now you're amongst a group of individuals, so you definitely had social skills therapy, and that's what I had to deal with for 4 years, diagnosis. So what tactics did you have to learn as an actress to develop social skills as your character, 7 of 9 amongst the crew, and also your son Alex? How's he doing on the spectrum?
My son is amazing. My son has Asperger's, I don't know if any of you know that. He's 20, he's here. I don't know if he's backstage or if he's out here now. Is he out here? He's backstage. Hi, Alex. Anyway, he's here with me. He's amazing. But I have heard from so many people on the autism spectrum who've related to this character, and that just warms my heart. I love to hear that because she does very much mirror their struggles with, like you said, with social skills and learning what's appropriate and what's not. And as she explored her humanity, she bumped up against a lot of the same issues. And so I mean, that for me was all in the script. I was very lucky to be given a very beautifully written character. There wasn't much that I had to do outside to fix it or to figure things out. In the beginning, when I was first cast, Alex was, 2 and a half. And so I drew on him, on my memories of him when he was a baby, and like his first, one of my audition scenes was 7 having her first memory of laughter. And I drew on Alex for that, when he was a baby and he laughed and surprised himself and kind of caught himself off guard for the first time. Because she was very childlike and very innocent in many, many ways. And I love that this was a character that so many people were able to relate to and sort of feel a connection with the struggles that they're going to and felt some help. So thank you.
So beautiful how this show goes so far beyond being just a television show and means so much to so many people. Yes.
This is for the whole panel. Star Trek obviously encourages a philosophy of diversity and equality. Was this philosophy actively practiced by the crew, writers, and staff? And how does that experience compare to other jobs that you have? Was the set different?
No, I had to take a knee every time I came to the set. In protest to the way I was treated and my fellow castmates.
Mike Pence never watched the show because of me.
I mean, just by the fact that the characters that they wrote, I mean, I think it is the most diverse of all the Star Trek cast out there. We really had everybody on this show, almost complete across the board. We had a nice mixture of ethnicities on this show in comparison to the other ones, I think, right?
And a female captain.
And a female captain. That was huge. I don't know if you guys know this, but we premiered January of 1995 on a Monday. Tuesday, they came to the production office, and the answering machine, the voicemail, was full of people that were channel surfing and came across Voyager's premiere and decided to leave a message on the voicemail. And the message was different people saying the same thing. How dare you allow a woman to be in command? we're going to come down to Los Angeles and blow up Paramount Studios and kill all of you because of this. I mean, anger and just... Oh, that was you? Excuse me. Wow. You're the Unabomber, actually. Okay.
That could be some of the same people that were upset at Discovery, right? Or so many shows. I mean, where do they, why are they even watching Star Trek?
Yeah, that's my question. What are you watching
What the hell?
Star Trek for? You've got
Right.
an attitude like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, but what's amazing is that having the only show with a woman captain, like throughout, a strong female lead like that, it really is the most empowering show for any young lady to watch. So any of you have 8, 9, 10-year-old girls, oh my God, if you're an engineer, every time a gentleman comes up to my table and he's bringing his daughters up, and I ask the young ladies, do you watch the show with Dad? And a lot of times they say, no, we don't. I'm like, you really should. You should watch every episode with your father, because that's bonding time you're going to remember for the rest of your life, and you're going to have a better husband and a better job when you grow up, because Captain Janeway will not stand for a half-assed husband or a half-assed job.
Some of that's been mirrored, because we have women in charge, captains of ships in the Navy, and now flying frontline fighters off of aircraft carriers, single-seat fighters. Let me tell you how many cojones that takes to do.
And may I add, a man in the kitchen.
This is my very good goulash.
Okay,
I forgot the
let's
gist of
just
the-
go. Oh, we got this side now, yes, please.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Never mind, really. No, of course it's important.
I love you too,
Did we answer your question seriously? Okay, here we go.
How dare you?
Hi. My sister actually thought of this question. She's in the audience. This is actually for Garrett. There was an episode, and I don't remember the name of it, where Harry Kim is killed. It involves a parallel universe, basically. Harry Kim is blown out into space, and then another version of himself basically replaces him from the parallel universe.
Yes.
My sister and I were both,
It's episode 154.
Oh.
We're being attacked by the Vidians, and the ship has phased into 2 different Voyagers.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, my sister and I and my mom that was like a little creepy, because it's like, it's Harry Kim, but it's not.
It's duplicate Kim.
Right, I was just gonna ask your feelings about that when you found out.
That I was going to be the duplicate?
Yeah.
I felt exactly the same way the day before, but I didn't. No, that scene pissed me off, because if you remember that scene, Kim is like about to fall out of the airlock, and B'Elanna's trying to hold on to him, and Kim falls out, he's like, ah! And then, remember this? So B'Elanna like hits her combat, and she goes, towards the captain! And then Janeway answers, go ahead. Harry's dead! Cut back to Janeway. What about decade? Like, she didn't even care that Harry was dead. And I said, you know what? If I was going to film that or write that, it would have been more like, towards the captain. Go ahead. Harry's dead.
My poor Harry. Never again will I see him play his clarinet. His young, angelic face. Get together. What about decade, B'Elanna?
Jeri goes, oh yeah, you were ensign for 7 years. Thank you for so much. Oh.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Here we go, over here.
So I was wondering, you guys were on Voyager for 7 years, trying to get home, trying to get to a goal. What's your goal nowadays? What voyage are you guys on? And what are you trying to reach nowadays?
I'm trying to reach the next year. Get there, I'm happy.
Trying to make a better world for my kids to grow up in, and all of our kids to grow up.
You're talking more about our personal or our characters in the future? What's happening?
More personal.
Oh, personal, more personal. Because I was going to answer about what Kim was doing right now. Can I do that? Okay, that's better. So, Kim quit Starfleet because he never gets promoted. And then, he rents out the retail space, which is right next to the entrance of Starfleet headquarters in San Francisco. And he opens up Admiral Kim's Bar and Grill.
T-shirt shop.
That's a very,
Right.
very deep question, sir. I commend you. I don't know. You know, I'm trying to keep the world that I come in contact with. I try to be as kind as I can and try to avoid anger, blame, and criticism unless it's going to be healthy and productive. And vote right.
Yeah. I'm in the process of still raising my daughter. She is here this weekend. She's a teenager now. Let me tell you what kind of job that is. Tuvok on Voyager, that's a cakewalk. So trying to keep her, you know, trying to teach her all the things that I've learned, and you know, try to prepare her for, you know, venturing out into this world. Which on the other side of the spectrum, I'm staying politically active and involved in, you know, what is happening now. And just as a general note, I mean, as my perspective goes, and I could be preaching to the choir here since it is mostly a Star Trek crowd, you know, I was around during the 60s and 70s when we had the riots for civil rights after Vietnam, and it was a very violent time. Some of my colleagues here remember that as well, and you know, it is absolutely nothing like what we are going through today, and this is it's untenable. It has to stop. It has to go. It has to go. Sorry, whatever side of the political spectrum you may be on, there is no excuse for this. Okay?
And we can make it stop. We have power in our hands,
Absolutely.
in our voices.
Gotta do it, guys. Gotta do it.
Tim, can I just ask Tim one question? When you're parenting your daughter, Madison, do you use the Tuvok voice ever? Do you say, like, Madison, your missing curfew was highly illogical? Do you have any of that? I'm just curious.
It's not too far off from that.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Raised by a Vulcan.
Well, I had a big life change when I got married and then had my daughter. It happened late in my life. But I have to say it's the greatest thing that's happened to me. But what it does, it makes me worry. I worry so much. I don't sleep as well as I used to because I'm thinking, oh my God, this world. I'm so overly protective of my daughter and my wife. And so, you know, it's a huge responsibility when you have a child and when you're married and you're, you know, you really care about the future. The future becomes something palpable. It's something that you live with, and you sleep with, and you dream about. And so it's great fun. I love being married. I love having my daughter. But there's a huge responsibility, and I have to just say, you know, echo what Tim is saying, is that forget about the media. Forget about the brainwashing that people think. We have to think for ourselves, right? And we have to go just trust our instincts as human beings, common sense, to love each other, and don't allow any outside stupid influences with a day in, day out, make you relent, right? I mean, make you give in. So that's what I'm trying to teach my daughters, just to think on her own 2 feet, think logically. And so it's just, yeah,
And I think for ourselves, as ourselves being all of us, a community, the community of humanity, right? Because one of the credos of Star Trek is really that there is no them. There is only us, right? So in thinking for ourselves, we're thinking with empathy. We're thinking for people that we don't share anything in common with except our humanity, right? Isn't that the message of this show?
And also, I had a Jesuit education. Anybody out there have a Jesuit education? The Jesuits are these intense people, and they always told us that the sin that God hated the most of all the sins was consenting to despair. That's the one that hurt him the most. So let's stay away from hopelessness. I was just telling my oldest son the other, oh wait a minute, I don't have children, do I?
We'll get some. That wasn't an open invitation. I was just sorry. At your photo op. Sorry. That's not what I meant. Next question, please.
My question's for any or all of you. You guys seem to have a lot of fun together. Did you have a cast prankster or clown? If so, what was one more memorable day?
Cast prankster
All
or clown,
of
what?
Pretty much all of us, in a way. I would say all of us. There were some people that were more likely to do it. Beltran and Tim were really, I think, the two top clowns on the show.
Really? You think Beltran was a top clown? Are you kidding? No. The commander? No.
He was. Did you ever see his Bob Dole imitation?
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. But she's saying prankster. That's like a one-liner thing. You know how Picardo's a one-liner? You do jokes, the long ones. But prankster? That would have been Russ.
Tim Russ, probably.
Gotta be Russ.
Tim Russ, who, you know, had all the emotion of a 2x4. And yet he's up there cracking everybody up.
Okay, do you remember that's, okay, the pilot episode, we didn't really know everybody very well at that time, but we're in the scene where the caretaker takes us and he's sampling our DNA, and we're all on those biobeds, and so as actors, all the men wore tights, skin-colored tights, and we were shirtless. The women wore bodysuits that were skin-colored, and so we had robes on before we were filming, and Tim Russ had his robe on, and he makes an announcement in front of the entire crew and the cast. He goes, I just want to say before I take my robe off, I want everyone to please not laugh or make any comments or, stare. And we're thinking, what is underneath that robe? Does he have leprosy, an extra appendage? What's happening? And so then he takes off his robe and half the room starts laughing. We're like, what's going on? He starts rotating, and we know and I don't know what's happening too, he's now in profile from my view, and I see that he's stuffed about 30 pairs of socks in his little, his tights. So now it looks like he has elephantitis of the penis. It's huge, right? And we're just like, that's the Vulcan. He's so mild-mannered and he's doing this. So that's what we knew. He's the prankster. Oh my God. It's always the quiet ones you have to be aware of. Concerned about. So, you weren't there for that.
A lot.
You are.
Very educational for me.
I remember Tim and Johnny used to play this weird game where I just came upon it because I would hear them go, you saw it, you looked, and they would pound each other. I said, no, ow, I didn't see it. Yes, you did. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And they would do this thing.
They would make a circle, right? And if you
looked at it, I guess,
you get to punch him. But if you put your finger in the circle, pull it out, then you get to punch the other guy.
Yeah.
What it was.
Well, I didn't quite get the rules, so one time I did this to Johnny. And Johnny, look. And he goes, he looked at it, and pow!
There were a lot of rules. You couldn't do it above your shoulder. When you hit the guy, if he didn't wipe it off, he got to hit you. If he stuck his finger in the circle and you grabbed it before he could get it out, you got to hit him. There were all these rules. Tim and I did it all through season 3, 4, and 5. I came home with bruises on my shoulders. You really hit me hard.
Well, you hit me hard too. There were moments. You didn't want to catch us all in the turbo lift before the doors opened. That's a whole different ballgame.
You guys are nasty.
If we're all standing in the turbo lift and we all spill out onto the bridge or whatever, yeah, what was going on in that turbo lift? It was nothing about what
Tim's nickname was the gas giant.
make an announcement on the bridge. He goes, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna eat granola and every other food that will produce more flatulence.
Okay. All right. We're good, right? Anybody else? We're good. Right? Move on.
We'd always say, I would say, Captain, I'm reading a gaseous anomaly coming from Tupac Station.
I hope you're getting all of this, StarTrek.com. All of it. Okay, next, please, rescue us. Save us.
Hi, good morning. I know you have amazing fans that adore you and give you hugs, but I was just wondering if there were some poorly behaved fans that might have crossed the line, and if you had any stories you wanted to share.
Oh my. Do you want, okay, I'm sitting in this autograph table in Birmingham, England, and this van wheels past in a wheelchair. She's dressed beautifully, beautiful dress. She had one leg though, and she had a beautiful pump on the one leg she had, and she wheeled past, she goes, "Harry Kim!" And I said, "Oh, hello!" And she wheels off, and I'm signing. Hour later, she comes back, and now she is completely inebriated, okay? So she's been drinking shots. She comes up at the front of the table, and she wheels up, and she lunges out of her wheelchair onto the signing table, and scurries up to me, and grabs my shirt. She just pulls me up against her, and she goes, "Oh, I like your shirt." I'm going, thank you. And I can smell the alcohol in her breath, right? And she's looking at me with this look of desire. And she goes, she's horrified. She goes, "Will you be my after dinner mint?" And at that point I say, I have a girlfriend, I'm sorry. So the look of desire and lust, when the minute I said I had a girlfriend, turned to anger and Satan came out of her. And she went, she let go of my shirt, she reared back, and I saw her hand come in slow motion, right? It's coming in like that. I'm going, oh no! And all the staff and the crew members, security, they're like, no. And that hand kept coming and connected so hard, she knocked me out of my chair. I got slapped. I got the bejesus slapped out of me, and I fell on the floor, right? I'm like, oh. And I got up, and she slingered back into her chair and just wheeled off. And everyone was just like, watching her wheel off. And just because she's handicapped, nobody tackled her, they just let her go. They're like, that's all right, she could just slap any guest she likes. So that was my line. Please do not slap any of the Star Trek actors here.
I am sorry I missed that.
I'm not going to Birmingham anymore.
I have not had any experience that was remotely close to that. I got to say
That really wins the cake.
Yeah,
27 years, that's got to be a winner. Yeah, that's it, man.
I'm still in therapy over that.
So you're all gonna ask Garrett if he'll be here after dinner.
I should make a t-shirt like that. Will you be my after dinner mint?
Please, stat. All right, we've got like 3 more minutes. Maybe time for one more quick question? Yes, sorry.
I have a very deep, intense, emotional question for all of you. Have any of you been approached or would be willing to consider going on Dancing with the Stars?
I will be honest, I tried for many years to try to get on that show. I did. I talked to different publicists, but it just never happened. I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. So, writing campaign, please help me out. Get on there. They need a Trek actor on that show, right? Yeah.
I'll go on it if I can just.
You did? Look at that. They offered Jeri Ryan the first season. You should have said, Garrett will do it. That's what you should have done.
I know.
I'll do it if I can just tap my foot.
Public humiliation on a much smaller level. I don't like to be.
Okay, so we've got just 2 minutes left. I'm sorry, I think we're gonna have to, oh, this is so hard. Okay, fast.
This is not a question, this is just a statement. It's really a treat. I always love seeing you all and hearing from you. And I just want you to know today was a little different. You all were really inspirational. And I thank you for your words.
Thank you.
Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country, you have restored my faith.
The next generation of Starfleet, we've got to have it. Yeah, come on, one more.
So if you guys were going to be doing a rerun of any episode from the Voyager series, which episode would that be?
Timeless.
A rerun of any of the episodes that we had from Voyager?
I would say that the pilot, because it's 2 episodes, we get 2 paychecks.
I would like to do the one that where I got to kiss Jeri.
I would do Futures End 1 and 2 because I got a chance to hang out all over the city of LA in a beautiful spring weather and in my civvies clothes in the time travel, along with Sarah Silverstein and Silver Silverman and Robbie. Wonderful, fun time I had for those 2 weeks. I'd do that again.
I would also like to redo the episode where I kissed Jeri. I remember I was so nervous. I'm standing there and
I'm always so nervous.
Well, no, especially because I had to kiss you, so I'm turned away from camera and I'm sweating bullets. So I've got tissue and I'm like patting the tissue, and then I'm waiting for the last second before I throw the tissue down. The director goes, "Okay, tape, speed, action." I throw the tissue down, I turn the camera, and the director goes, "Cut!" I go, "What? Garrett, you have pieces of tissue stuck to your head." All over, and I said, "I'm so nervous," you know, and I was telling this story to Jeri, and she's like, "That's how I was when I had to kiss Robert. I was nervous to kiss him." I'm like, "Dad, go man." Uncle Robert, you always get.
What episode would you have watched? Which one would you have done?
You.
I'd probably do The Void. I really like that episode.
The Void.
Episode 39.
That was before I was on the show, right? Okay, good. Just checking.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. Do you guys want to say a quick goodbye or anything? 1, 2, 3, real fast?
I want you guys to have a good weekend. For those of you staying over the weekend, enjoy yourselves. See everybody else.